In this video, we're going to look at some good and bad examples of background paragraphs for an essay that's analyzing an author's observations. So the topic question here is, as it was in our examples for the introductory paragraphs, what are E.M. Forster's observations about sexual orientation in the novel Maurice? And that's the thesis that we looked at before. Keep in mind that this novel is written about 1913, and the topic that the essay is looking at is sexual orientation and Forster's view of that, his observations. So let's begin looking at some paragraphs there. Let's first look at paragraph A, and you can pause the video and read through this one, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So you can pause the video now. Okay, coming back, this is not a good background paragraph. There's no signaling language that tells the reader that it is a background paragraph. It just jumps right into details. Plus, it's not providing background that's really relevant to the story. It's talking about ancient Greece and the entire history of homosexuality. That background is not really useful for an essay that's about a novel on sexual orientation during the early 20th century. This is too broad, and it's kind of just an information dump. It's almost like someone went to the first thing they could find on the topic of homosexuality and just started cutting and pasting quotes in. So this is not a good example. It's not focused enough on the actual background information the reader needs to know for this novel. All right. Let's look down here at example B. So pause the video, read that, and then we'll come back and talk about it. All right, this one, the problem is there's no research. This is just someone talking off the top of their head. When you're providing background information, you want research. You want to cite your sources, quote from them, give facts from them. This doesn't have any of that. This is just someone writing off the top of their head. There's also no signaling language that says that this is a background paragraph. So this is a bad example as well. All right, let's look at C here. So pause the video and read through it. All right, this is a good example of a background paragraph. First of all, right here, you see some signaling language in that topic sentence here. So it says, before investigating Forster's observations about sexual orientation, it is important to understand what the norms for sexual identity and expression were during the period when Maurice is set, the early 20th century in England. So it's telling the reader, okay, before I get into my main argument about Forster's observations, we need to know this background information on this topic during this period. So it's very narrowed and focused. And then if you look at most of the rest of that paragraph up to about this point, you'll see that it really is focused on what life was like for gay people, gay men, during the period around or near the early 20th century, kind of from the late 19th up to about the mid 20th century. And it gives you specific citations from research with names, quotes, dates, specificity. It's not just someone talking off the top of their head. And then at the end, there's a little bit here, and I'll highlight this as well, about the author's own relation to this. The fact that Forster himself was gay and in fact would not allow this novel to be published until after his death, 58 years after it was written. And if you do find some information about your author that can give you an insight into where they're coming from on the specific topic you're writing about, then that can be something also to include in the background paragraph. But you can see here, this is a much more focused background paragraph than the previous two. It really focuses on what people will need to know to understand this topic during the time period when the novel is set. All right, let's look at the last example. So pause the video and read D here. All right, coming back on this one, D, again, does not have a topic sentence that signals that this is a background paragraph. And then the problem with is this doesn't maintain an objective presentation of the norms for the period. It kind of starts to get into the argument, right? It starts making comments and opinions of the writer. And so it's kind of starting to argue too soon. The background paragraph is not where you're starting the argument. The argument will start after this paragraph in the next paragraph, which will be your first body confirmation paragraph among the body paragraphs. So this is just getting into argument and opinion too early. It should just be presenting the context about the topic during the time period. Okay, so C is the good one here, and if you want to review how to structure a background paragraph, you can look at the video just prior to this one.